Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Zyxel webinar about our new surveillance PoE switch series. We have two series available, unmanaged and managed. And today we are going to talk about what differs these from the rest. My name is Jukka Vesa. I work as a sales engineer for the Nordic region. If you have any questions during the presentation, please put them into the questions section of GoToWebinar, and I will cover them at the end. So without further ado, let's move onwards. So what is the motivation behind these switching series? We all know that IP surveillance is a fast growing market, and usually the IP camera installations are done either via an OEM PoE switches, which may or may not be very quality switches, or by using PoE injectors, which obviously makes the installation quite messy, since you have a lot of Cat5 cables, a lot of power cables, plus you have no control over the PoE sources. Okay, and usually the standard OEM switches used don't have any specific features that are meant for these surveillance markets. So either they are standard unmanaged switches or managed switches with just normal layer 2 functionalities. So what has Zyxel brought to market to tackle these problems? First of all, an unmanaged series, the GS1300. We have three models available, the 10 HP, 18 HP, and 26 HP. All models come with a decent size of PoE budget, varying from 130 watts to 215 watts, and all running something called consumption mode, which only allocates the amount of power the device actually needs, instead of using the device classification to allocate the power. And this means that you can more efficiently use the PoE budget of the switch and plug in more devices to it. From feature-wise, what's special about the unmanaged switches are the extended range PoE. So we can supply power over 250 meter Cat cable. The cable type needs to be at least Cat5e for it to reach 250 meters. This is managed via DIP switches in the front panel of the switch, so you can select which ports are in extended PoE mode and which are not. And of course, with standard non-extended range PoE, you can only reach up to 100 meters. So where you have cabling, long cabling between the switch and the camera, you can reach from one location just by using this feature. Then we also introduce the managed surveillance switch series, which concludes of four models, the 6-port, 12, 18, and 26-port models. And compared to the unmanaged models, these have a bit larger PoE budget, up to 375 watts. They also support the classification mode as well as the consumption mode I talked about earlier. These are fully managed layer 2 switches, so you can manage them via the web interface or the command line interface, whichever way you prefer. And there will be also a possibility to integrate these to our Nebula Cloud Management solution sometime during next year. Currently, it's scheduled somewhere around next summer. One of the special switches is the 6 HP, which support the BT standard of PoE, which is up to 16 watts. So if you have motorized heated dome cameras that consume a lot of power at once, you can power these up with power the cameras up with the 6 HP. And It's very reasonably priced. It's priced around the same as a BT power injector would, but you get a lot more device with your money. So the features that are fairly unique to Zyxel's managed surveillance switches. First, continuous PoE, which always keeps the PoE ports up and running when the switch has power. So even if you need to do a reboot to the switch, for example, you do some configuration changes that require rebooting, you restore the device to factory default, you do a firmware upgrade, or perhaps something abnormal happens, a fault scenario of some kind, and the switch has to recover itself by rebooting, then the cameras will never lose power because the switch will always transmit power to the cameras. And that, of course, creates a lot less downtime than normally. If the switch would reboot, it would cut down the power from the cameras, which would then again have to reboot as well. So you kind of cut the downtime to half, since the cameras are always up and running. From the web interface, you are able to see camera status. You are, of course, able to name where the cameras are located. You are able to see the health status of the camera, which is generated by the feature I will talk about next. But it's basically just a normal traffic light. Green means everything is okay. Yellow means the camera is trying to be recovered. And red means the switch was unable to recover the camera. You are able to see the link speed, how much the actual power consumption of that camera is, the system name, the IP address. You are able to power cycle the port from here. And on some cameras, you are also able to set them to factory default. Then the really nice feature on these switches is auto camera recovery, which is automatically able to detect if the camera is unresponsive and act according to the parameters you set in here. So we have two ways of detecting if the camera is alive or not. First way is LLDP, which is a commonly used neighboring protocol for detecting which devices are connected to which port. For example, the data shown on last slide, the camera name, etc., is generated by LLDP, and as said, very widely supported in all networking devices. And it requires a bit more intelligence than just using a ping. And the other option, of course, is ping, meaning that is the network card of that device responding or not. And that is at least supported by each and every networking equipment around there. So we can definitely say that this feature will support all cameras in a way or another. Then you are able to set the parameters what to do if the camera is unresponsive. Will it just send an alarm, or will it reboot and try and reboot the camera before and then send an alarm? And then you can set how many times it will reboot it, between what intervals, how long it will keep the power out of that port or keep the camera down before trying to boot it up once again. And this is all due to prevent the camera of going just reboot loops or something like that. So a very, very handy and Zyxel unique feature. Creates lossless manual work of going and unplugging power cables from the cameras. From the hardware side, we have introduced a 4 times the standard surge protection and 2 times the standard of electrostatic discharge or ESD protection. So since usually cameras are located outdoors or wherever they may be, they might have some overvoltage issues coming through the cabling, so the switches need to be protected nicely as well. So then the last slide Just as a summary, the devices that we are now introducing, the unmanaged and the managed series, so the 1300 and the 1350 series. And something that are worth of noticing, that even though either of the series are not really a rugged housing, they support a wide temperature range up to -20 degrees. So it is very important in the Nordic part of the world that we are able to install these into cold storages, parking houses, etc., where the IT room is not heated. So you are able to use this there as well. The unmanaged switches also have a PoE max LAD, so you are able to see from the front panel if you are overdrawing power, or technically over 90% of the power budget is used on the switch. From the managed side, you have a PoE usage LADs, which is from 0 to 100% between 20%. So you have basically 5 LADs on the front panel showing you how much PoE budget is being consumed at any given time. Then common thing with all our new switches actually is the last good button, or actually a restore button, which allows you to store a custom default configuration to your switch. And that allows you to set all your interface settings, etc., your VLANs, your management IPs, whatever it may be you want to set there. So if something goes wrong configuration wise, the device can be always reset to your own custom default, and you can once again gain access to it remotely rather than just driving on location or getting somebody to plug in their laptop with a team viewer and then you do the configuration after that. A very, very handy feature, especially in our part of the world where we have vast distances between sites. This was the presentation of today, so very short. Something I need to mention as well is that we are hosting a more technical webinar on the topic. So we are going into more details on how these features actually work on the background. That will be hosted 22nd of October. And also in Q4, we are running a lot of promotions on switching. These you can find all of these from our partner portal. And this is it from today, and I will just keep the webinar running for some minutes if there are any questions. If not, I will thank you all for attending and have a very, very good Wednesday afternoon. Thank you. Looks like there are no questions coming, so thank you all once again for attending, and have a good Wednesday afternoon. Bye bye.